This is my 1984 Pontiac Firebird that I took the motor out of a 2001 GMC Sierra, and I'm turbocharging it to make it a drag racing car. It's still in the works yet, but it's coming along. It's come a long way since I got it. I've been working on it since the middle of June. It's now January of the next year, and trying to make some better progress on it. Just working on the oil plumbing for the turbo. And next I got to do the radiator lines, which looks to be a pretty complicated system. Don't know how I'm going to do it yet, but I'll figure it out and bring you guys along for the ride. So the first thing I'm going to do is I already got my oil feed line ran back to the oil sending unit on the motor. So now I got to figure out an oil drain situation. But I don't have the pipe for this turbo. This turbo come off of a Caterpillar engine out of a Ford rollback. So I'm going to take this oil drain that I have off another turbo, which is the same flange, take this piece of cardboard and tap it around there to make a template, so I can take another plate of steel and cut me one out and make it work for this turbo. So how I'm going to do this, I'm going to take this piece of cardboard and a bolt, lay it on there, and shove this through there into the bolt hole so it'll hold it still, so I can show you guys how to make a template out of cardboard. Okay, now I got my bolt stuck through the cardboard into the donor oil drain. Now I'm going to take something round like this screwdriver and tap around the edges and around the holes to make me a template. I don't know how well it's going to work. You're supposed to use a ball peen hammer, but I don't have a ball peen hammer at the time, so let's see how this goes. Okay, so making my template actually worked out pretty good. So now I got to take a razor blade knife and cut this out, find a piece of steel, and take a marker and scribe it over onto the piece of steel and cut it out with the grinder. So I got my template cut out for my oil drain. Now I just have to find a plate of steel, which the barn I work in was a storage shed for 25 plus years. But it shouldn't be too hard to find a plate of steel. Just got to look around and hope I can find one. Which right here might be a perfect candidate, and that's a little too thick. Don't want to go too crazy thick with it. Then it'll be hard to cut through. There might be one right here underneath this bench grinder that would be perfect. Well, I've got my piece cut out. I just got to stick it in my vise, which is pretty crappy, and grind it down, make it look more like it needs to be, and drill some holes in it. Then it'll be ready for a fitting to be welded to it, and figure out a way to drain it back into the engine block. I'll keep you updated when I get it ground down. My drill battery died, so I couldn't finish drilling out my flange that I made. It didn't turn out the best, but it'll work. So in the meantime, I pulled off my charge pipe, and I'm working on the radiator hoses, which I just come up with a pretty good idea of how to do it. I found this other piece that I cut off and another piece that is cut off. I'm going to make a coupler and hook these two together with using this 1/2-inch piece of galvanized pipe. And then I'm just going to run it straight across with another piece of galvanized pipe right into that hose. It'll go right in the top side of the radiator. And then after that, I got to figure out a way to get it hooked from there to right there. But for now, I'm going to get this top line done, and I'll keep you updated throughout the process. Okay, so I got the upper radiator hose all done. Like I've said about a lot of things on this car, it ain't the prettiest, but whenever you're 17 and don't have a very good paying job, I mean, you do what you got with what you have, so it's coming along now. Like I said before, I just have to figure out how I'm going to do that bottom line. It's not very big, it just has two different ends on it, which makes it really tricky because for some reason GM decided to use 1.5 inches on top and a 2-inch on the bottom. And then on the radiator has 1.5 inches. So I got this piece of line here which has 2-inch on this end, 1.5 inches on that end. So I might be able to chop it down and make it work for what I got. And if so, that'd be pretty nice, because then that would be the cooling system done on the car other than a radiator fan. But I don't know if I'll have to run a radiator fan or not, being that it's a very low horsepower turbo car made to go a quarter mile and be shut off and parked until the next pass. So, guess we'll see in the very near future, I suppose. Okay, got the lower radiator line on. I ended up having to find another piece and make it work, but got it on. Just got to get a couple clamps for both sides for the top and both sides for the bottom. Then this thing would be ready to have fluid in it, but I'm going to wait until closer to that time because at the drag strip, they do not allow antifreeze. So if it blows out, it doesn't make a bigger mess on the track than what it needs to be, because if it's just water, they can just blow dry it off, but antifreeze is like a oil-based liquid, so it makes it a lot harder to clean up. So I've definitely made some progress today. I think I'm going to work on the throttle linkage now. I got plenty of time until I got to get ready to leave the barn. So I'm going to knock out as much as I can today. Get this thing close to being ready to start up and run. And hopefully be done in the next month or so. Okay, so to start on the throttle cable, since this is an 84 car, it has a what they call a 700R4 transmission in it. It is one of the only transmissions GM made back in the day that had an overdrive. So it has this. They call this the kickdown cable. Whenever you smash the gas, it yanks this cable and tells the transmission that it needs to downshift so it'll pick up on power and go. Without this, the transmission won't shift. It don't know where it needs to be or anything like that. But luckily for me, with the throttle cable, if I slide it in here, I just have to make a bracket so I can hook it up to the LS throttle body, and then I can retain my stock throttle cable, stock throttle pedal. And then one of the next biggest things I'd have to do is I got to figure out how to run this kickdown cable, because the issue I'll show you here, when you slide it up into where I want to run it so I can bolt it to like the injector mounting bracket, or the fuel rail mounting bracket, my bad, is I got to find a way to get this from here to the bottom side of this. So whenever I whack that wide open, it yanks this and tells that transmission it's go time. But at the moment, the cable is too short, and I mean, I have every bit of slack I can possibly get from the back up here. So that's going to be my biggest issue. But right now, just to get it going so I can get in it, use the throttle pedal to rev it up a little bit, I'm going to get a bracket started for this, and then I will go from wherever I'm at with that to getting the kickdown cable to work and a little closer to making her run and drive. Okay, so that was fairly simple. I just took a 1/4-inch drill bit, drilled a hole right through the old throttle, I don't even know what to call that exactly, throttle arm, and just stuck a bolt through it for now. I gotta get a shorter one or else it'll hit that and I can't get a nut on it. But I just tested it. You go in the car, push to the floor, and she goes wide open. Opens that throttle blade and tells the motor she needs air and fuel. So with that, I'm going to end off my first video. Be sure to subscribe if you want. If not, I don't particularly care. It's up to you. But next video, I'm going to get a little more wiring done, get some cleaning done, and maybe make a battery hold down. And well, have a great night, ladies and gentlemen.